Kaganan ya zama dodo, dai mai dodo. Dodo.
Wani ne?
Mamuda.
Sun makalla ba.
Yawa.
Makalla ba. Abubuwan gaba na sun mun yawa.
Ni ma kai na tsaya jira na ga ba ka da rana ka zo har sun musu wani sabo.
No time.
Na ce ka ina yin su ɗaya zan baka. Ka ce ka je ka yi? Bayan. Ai ma akwai ka kai min da balbalin abin da na yi do. Ka ce. Gane. Wannan wayan babu katin. Wayan dadi kawai akwai. Mami, Aji cikin wada? Ashe? Allah ya kai mu. Cikin su. Ayi, kawai ya zama. Abin da sun ta a waye. Sun ga ta kai zo. Kai ba ka barin mutum wajen ha. Sai ka ce an kawo wuta. Kake bari a ɗauka. Hai, ya ce ka bani yi so kuɗi ka bani. Ina hari.
Aikin da kake mawa na ɗebo asirin wasu kawo waɗanda suka yi makamana da su. To ai kai kasa na ranke da amma ai ba ta yi da samun. Na yi wasu ta yin irin wannan aiki suka ce ba za su yi. Kaga kuwa mai kamar zuwa kan wuta. Gani ne kake nufi ba kamar abin da ke nufi shi ne ba zan ɗauki aiki a kan wani na ɗauki.
Kaji kakan.
Gaskiya ba kamar adalci.
Ai ya kashe.
Kamar da adalci a bakin ka ba.
Zan dannawa.
Ki aiki adalci ka musu. Bayan cin amana da kai musu.
Ya kama ciwo.
Ai kamar layi na da kai.
Duk a ƙasƙi.
Mutunci, kima da darajar. Tun da ka bari kamfanin alfini ya so suka kore ka aiki. Aikin da kake manyan kare. Saboda ba ka da wani amfani yau.
Na danna ma.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, how are you all?
Fine, ma.
Yeah. Okay. At this point, I would like all of you to mute yourself because I've been hearing some background noise. I don't know who is that. And, even the children's voice I've been hearing. So I would like us to, I'd like you to mute yourselves. So you're welcome. Sorry, we are supposed to have started, I think, 2 weeks ago now.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I think you can mute everybody from there. Don't mute everybody from there.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, ma.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma.
Yes, ma, we can hear you, ma.
Okay. So I will start by introducing myself. If you have gone to the course page for this course, you should have seen my name and have idea what my name is. But just in case you didn't, my name is Dr. Henrietta Kele, and I like to apologize because we're supposed to have started this course 2 weeks ago, but we were unable to start it due to some circumstances beyond my control. And I'm just saying maybe 41 participants, I believe they will increase with time because we're supposed to be more than this. I would like, before going into the topic for today, to give you an overview of this course, chm101, Introductory Inorganic Chemistry. Now, I equally have ideas, not all of you that are for BSc chemistry, you have other courses, but you will have done chemistry in your own level one way or the other. When it comes to chemistry, we have different aspects of chemistry. We have organic chemistry. In your secondary school, you did some aspect of organic chemistry. We have inorganic chemistry. We have analytical chemistry. We have physical chemistry, environmental chemistry, and so forth and so forth. Now, to help you to understand this course, so that it will bring it to you to be interesting to you, so that you flow in this course. That's why I'm trying to give you an overview of this course, inorganic chemistry. Inorganic chemistry deals with the study of the elements of the periodic table and their compounds, excluding the compounds of carbon. But then, you know what the chemistry of carbon is studied under organic chemistry.
And that's it.
But equally, in inorganic chemistry, you only study carbon compounds when it comes to the compounds that carbon forms with oxygen, or the compound that carbon forms with sulfite,
Allah.
it forms with sulfur. So I come again, I said inorganic chemistry is the study of all the elements on the periodic table and the compounds they form, excluding carbon. And I said carbon, the compounds of carbon are studied under organic chemistry. But you have some compounds of carbon that is studied under inorganic compound, inorganic chemistry, and those are compounds that carbon forms with oxygen and the compounds that carbon forms with sulfur. So having an idea about, please, who is that? Kindly mute yourself. Have an idea overview of this course of what we are going to study. Please, about the elements of the periodic and the elements and the compounds they form with other elements. The first topic in this course, that is Module 1, Unit 1, is the periodic table. Now, look, hello. I don't want to start to begin to mute all of you, begin to mute and unmute. I believe you are all matured. So I would like to mute yourself from your own and stop disturbing others. Oluwatoyin Jimo, can you please mute yourself and respect yourself in this class? Okay. Now, I said the first topic that we're going to study is Module 1, Unit 1, which is the periodic table. I want to believe you can see.
Who is that?
You can see my
Gabriel.
PowerPoint.
Okay,
Hello?
sorry, me, I was even saying tomorrow.
Yes, we can see it, ma. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
We can.
Okay.
Somebody is talking there.
Oh, yeah,
Please, ma, you can mute all of us. Mute all of us. When we want
Yes,
to talk, you can
I'm going
mute
to do
us.
Please
that.
mute everybody.
Mute everybody, please.
Okay.
Okay. So I said I believe you can see my PowerPoint. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
I can see it, ma.
Yes, ma, we are
So
seeing.
Module 1, Unit 1 is about the periodic table. Now, what Module 1 deals with is all that happened, all the stages before the periodic table was formed. All are aware or have idea about the periodic table. That is a table of all the elements that have been discovered on Earth, where they are listed. But they are not just listed anyhow. There's an order because this is science and science has order. Now, in that unit 1, you have 2 topics, which is beginning of classification of the elements, then the periodic table itself. Now, beginning of the classification of the elements. Okay, you've muted everybody. Okay. Hello, I hope you can hear me. They can't even talk now. I don't know. They should have. If you can hear me, please raise up your hand. Because I've muted all of you, so I want to be sure that. Okay, all right. Maybe when I need you to talk, or when we're done, when you need to ask question, I can now. I can now unmute you. Okay, I'm coming to my PowerPoint. No, it's okay. Hello. And you know the issue is that okay now going to beginning of classification of the elements. This topic is simply just talking about all the scientists that worked trying to classify the elements before the final periodic table that we have. Now, when elements, most elements were discovered, some accidental, just by chance, then some out of curiosity and all that. You can imagine how it will have been that these elements haven't been discovered, are just scattered anyhow without putting them in an ordered way that we can use to explain matter and the world. So, because of the way, being that elements have been discovered, but there was no systematic way or an organized way of arranging them, scientists were worried about how do they bring these elements together so that it could be easy to be used for study. The first person to begin classifying the element, before I go further, there's something I want you to have in mind. And that I want you to have in mind is what I expect you that by the time we're done with this class, you should be able to know. And that has to do with the learning outcome. And I said by the end of this lesson, you should be able to list accurately two scientists who attempted to classify the elements into periods, then write with at least 70% accuracy brief accounts of the attempts made by the two scientists and the result of their attempts. With this at the back of your mind, you should be able to, focus to know the direction where we're going in this class. So, the first and the earliest attempt made to classify elements was by a French scientist, Anton Lavoisier. And his method of trying to classify the elements was to classify the elements into metals and non-metals. But then, that his classification wouldn't last long because there were other group of elements too known as the metalloids. And this group of the elements known as the metalloids are elements. Metalloids are elements that have properties that are intermediate between that of metals and non-metals, that resemble properties of metals and non-metals as well. So it wasn't just possible to just classify elements into metals and non-metals. And again, because of quest of trying to, discover our surrounding, there was a lot of advance in technology. And this led to a lot of discovery of other physical and chemical properties that could not just fit into describing the elements just as into metals and non-metals. This now made it inadequate to classify elements into metals and non-metals. So with that one, it wasn't a final stage, a final bus stop to accept that. So scientists got worried and still tried to see other ways or an appropriate way of classifying elements. Then later, a second scientist by the name J.W. Duvernet came up with another method, possibly that elements could be classified. And remember, when we're talking about science deals with hypotheses before it becomes a law. So he came out with this hypothesis to say that elements will be classified into what they call triad, because it wasn't all the elements that we know as of today that have been discovered at that time. So based on the element that had been discovered at his own time, which is 1829, he tried to arranging them into elements that behave similarly in terms of their physical property and their chemical properties. And he will arrange them in three called triads. And in arranging these, he discovered that the middle element have property, that the property of the middle element is an average of the property of the elements surrounding it. That worked for some few elements. This triad method could explain some few elements, but some elements that had heavy atomic weight greater than 20 and upwards, it could not really fit them into that triad, whereby the middle element, the property could be concluded or drawn from the property of the neighboring first and third element, neighboring it. So in other words, that didn't work for heavier atoms. So I'm going to move my PowerPoint to the first two things that I've said. And in this PowerPoint, you will see the first method, which is that of the Antonio Lavoisier, and we said the method of classification did not last or hold, so that you know the reason why it didn't last, why could not, build a final explanation of how to classify elements. One was due to knowledge of the metalloids. The second, due to advance in the knowledge of physical and chemical properties of the elements. Then, the second one, which is the second scientist that tried to classify the elements, which is J.W. Dobereni, we said that his method could not satisfy the classification of elements because it was inadequate. It only worked for few elements. It did not work for some elements with heavier atomic weight. It didn't work for all the other elements. Then we have a third scientist that came along by the name of Alexandra de Cantos, de Carcantius. He didn't say anything reasonably, but whatever it was rejected. At this point, I would like to unmute so that if there's any question you can ask, then we can now move forward. So I'll stop sharing here so that you can ask question. Okay. Hello, I've unmuted you to give you a chance to speak because this is a presentation class. Hello, yes. Somebody is saying I am not hearing.
We're hearing now, ma. We were not hearing earlier.
When were you not hearing me?
We are not hearing you. Maybe it's network, ma.
We are hearing you, ma.
Check yourself, ma.
I don't think
Check
the
yourself.
network is
Me, I'm hearing from here.
It's
Oh.
cracking.
Hello?
The network, I'm hearing from here.
Ma, we can hear you now. It was
Hello,
when you
ma.
wanted to unmute us that we
Hear
lost
you,
the
ma.
audio, but we can hear you now, ma.
Okay,
Yes,
but
yes.
when I muted you, you were all hearing me.
Yes,
Yes, ma.
Yes.
Yes, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, when I wanted to unmute you, I muted myself.
Okay.
And even the video, I stopped it to do all that.
We are hearing now.
I don't always like muting when I'm teaching. But now, some of you are making noise. I thought we will all respect ourselves and behave maturely. Why don't you just mute yourself? Because it's not good that I'm teaching and I'm muting you, muting and I'm muting and I'm muting. It's taking our time because it's just a 1 hour class.
Hello, ma.
So who is that is making noise? Can you just mute yourself? Okay. Okay, yes. Does anybody, any questions so far? Move ahead.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma. I have a question, ma.
Okay, go ahead so that we can now go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, ma. Out of the scientists mentioned, which of it is actually accepted? Like, because I realize that we have numbers of scientists here that has come up with their own observation before the periodic table, which was actually adopted, or was everything adopted?
Were you not listening? you know, if have you been reading your first material? Because you're meant to have even read your first material by now. Have you been reading?
Yes, ma'am.
This is my first class.
So of course
No, I mean not class. I mean you reading. Have you been reading your first material?
I've been reading, ma.
Okay, no problem. Remember when I started this class, if you are hearing me,
Yes,
we
ma.
were talking about this
Please
unit.
run house. If you know you're not talking, mute your mic.
They've not given me a
Do you want me to
course
begin to
material.
mute you again? I don't think it's right. I would like that.
Please, ma, if
I
you can
don't.
hear me, we lost the audio.
Yes. So why don't you
Can you
respect
hear
yourself
me?
and mute yourself? I will just continue talking. Can you mute
Is
yourself?
it possible for you to like unmute only one person?
Okay, let's go ahead. Now, answering your question. Remember when we started this class? I said in that unit 1 we have two topics: beginning of classification of the elements and the periodic law.
Okay.
And I said that several scientists try to classify elements before a final accepted method. So that means it's not all of them that were accepted. And that is why I try to highlight in that PowerPoint I showed you. First and foremost, because this is how you see it in your questions too. You know how the elements, the classification started. Who and who classified according to what? And why was it rejected by fellow scientists? Because before anything will be accepted, because this is science, it has to have scientific proof and backing. So we're just going down the list of the scientists that began classification of the element according to the order that they did it. And that's why we talked about the first person, Anthony Lavoisier, French scientist. Then how he tried to classify his own, just based as that all elements are either metals or non-metals. And now, why was it rejected by fellow scientists? Why wasn't it the final thing? So that's to show you that we're still continuing. I'll only just stop to make sure you're following. And we're saying that because at that time too, other elements that were discovered, it was proven scientifically that they don't have just properties that are just strictly that of metals or that of non-metals. Some of them had properties that are intermediate between that of metals and non-metals, and this group of elements are called metalloids. So because of the discovery of the metalloid element,
Hey God.
and again, advance in technology brought about the discovery of so many other physical and chemical properties that are not just strictly what we just line up as being maybe for metals or non-metals. So because of the discovery of the metalloids and advance in the knowledge of physical and chemical properties, it made that was rejected by fellow scientists. So you have to have that at the back of your mind. Then we now talked about the second person, J.W. Dobereiner. After that of the first person was not accepted, he now came out with a method of classifying the elements known as the triads.
Ma, please, it
Those
will be
are early
sorry.
elements that have been
Ma,
discovered
please
as
mute everybody.
Please, ma,
that we
please, can you
Please
mute
discovered.
mute everybody.
everybody?
Please mute everybody, please.
Can you mute everybody, please, ma?
Okay. I will just because basically make me, I will not even be.
We can type our questions too in the chat box, please.
Ma, you have to mute all of us, man. Some are distracting us.
I think I've muted all of them. Okay. So let me share my PowerPoint and just continue talking because class is very noisy. So that I can leave here. Okay, so I talked about J.W. Doberaned, how he tried to classify his own elements, that based classifying them into what he called triads. Triads are a set of three elements he will bring together, elements that have similar physical and chemical properties. But how he brought the third one, he will have the first one and a third one. Then using the property of the first and third, because it becomes the property of the middle element resembles that of the average of that of the first and third element, that's the neighboring element. He was able to group some elements like lithium, sodium, potassium, and all and the likes like that. So, but then with that he did could just explain or fitted for some elements that had smaller atomic weight. Those ones that had heavy atomic weight, he could not properly account for them. So with that one, fellow scientists rejected that. Then we had a third one, the Cartantius, that tried to explain, but his own explanation wasn't really very scientific like that, so it was rejected. Then there was a fourth scientist, John Newlands. John Newlands was, the first person that tried to arrange elements in order of increasing atomic weight, because as of this time, 1864, more and more elements had been discovered. So as he tried to arrange them, and of course, as the elements were discovered, the atomic weight were equally determined. As he tried to arrange them in order of atomic weight, he discovered that after the seventh element, that's the eighth element, will now begin to repeat its properties, both physical and chemical, will begin to repeat properties like the first element. So with that, he will arrange, let me come to this, show you this table. This is John Newland's arrangement of the elements. You can see the first element there: lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. As he arranged these elements in order of increasing atomic weight, he now discovered that after the seventh one, that eighth one, instead of it to continue like that, that eighth element begins to have properties similar to the first element. So with that, he would now bring that other element below that first element. Now, with that, he came up with what he called the law of octave. For those of you in choir or music, you know what is octave, the eighth note. So he used, what happens in the musical, let me say, music, to try to explain what is happening to these elements. So with that, he came out with that law of octave, which is like that. As the elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic weight, after the seventh one, that the eighth one begin to repeat properties similar to the first one. But in science, for you to explain anything to fellow scientists and they believe you, you don't have to start bringing something that is kind of mystical, like music, to it. With that, they were not satisfied. They wanted something that is scientifically proven. Why is the reason? Why is this thing behaving like this? And again, secondly, this is method of arrangement or explanation based on this law of octave could not still work out for some other elements that had higher atomic weight as well. So with that one, fellow scientists rejected that. So they rejected it based on that John Newland was associating science with mystical connections such as music. And again, that heavier elements could not exhibit octave. When they try to arrange heavier elements as elements with heavy atomic weight. So with that, it was rejected. Then of course, scientists did not just fold their arms, they were still looking for a more proper, sound way, scientific way to explain or to classify or arrange the elements in an ordered way that could be useful to study nature. That now brought another scientist by the name of Lothar Meyer. In his own attempt to classify the elements, he tried classifying them using their physical, their valency, the valency of the element. You know what the valency of an element? You did O level. And using the physical properties of the elements as of his own time, because more and more too have been discovered, such as the atomic volume. In his own, he tried to plot, make a graph of these physical properties, like the atomic volume, plotting the atomic volume against the atomic weight. And as he did this, he now discovered that the graph, let me show you a graph like this. The graph came out with something like that. You have some troughs, some peaks. And at that peaks, you had elements that have similar chemical properties being at the top. That's like, for instance, the alkali, the more reactive elements being at the top, while the less reactive elements being below. So with this, he was able to observe some periodic trends. Apart from John Newland, who was first to discover these periodic trends among elements, that when they are arranged in order of increasing atomic weight, that after the seventh one, the properties begin to repeat. John Lothar Meyer equally observed that when arranged, when you use physical properties of these elements, such as the atomic volume, and plot a graph against the atomic weight, their properties will repeat in a way such that the ones that are more reactive, like the alkali metals, will be on top, then the less reactive ones will be below. So there can be some explanation there. So at least that becomes kind of scientific. But it was still not, properly accepted, because Lothar Meyer used only physical properties. Because in science, when we try to describe the characteristics of elements, we don't just limit it to physical properties. You have to describe using physical and chemical properties. So, but because he only used physical properties to explain this observed trend and could not use chemical property, that too was not accepted by fellow scientists. So we want to look at inadequacy of Lothar Meyer's arrangement of the element. We said why it was not accepted or why it was inadequate to classify the element, because he used only physical properties of the element to illustrate periodicity. Why I'm taking my time like this, just to x-ray, to summarize what you have in that unit 1, so that you know what that unit 1 is talking about. It's talking about classification of the elements, the early attempts made to classify elements, the elements that the scientists are trying to classify elements. Then how did they classify it? Why wasn't it the final bust-up? Why wasn't it accepted finally by fellow scientists? And of course, scientists are always inquisitive, trying to understand the environment and conquer their environment. So with that as well, because this wasn't a final bust-up, there were still attempts. Scientists were still at work, trying to know how properly to classify this element. Then came Dmitry Mendeleev. When we begin to talk about the periodic table and the periodic law, we begin to talk about Dmitry Mendeleev, the Mendeleev table. Mendeleev was the next person, the next scientist online who brought his own work. He presented it then at a conference of scientists. And in his own, he tried to explain that he classified the element and was able to come out with a table as well as a law. That when the elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic weight, that is observed that as the atomic weight is increasing, there's a repetition in the property of the element. At a certain time, the properties of the element will begin to repeat. And his own was that he made use of both the physical, he used both the physical properties of the elements discovered at that time, not just only of the element, but the physical properties of the elements and the compound they form. Because as these elements are discovered, the compounds they formed as well, because most of them were discovered through some chemical reactions. And it's found that they form some compounds like that, maybe oxides, sulfides, and things like that. So, based on the compounds that they formed and the elements, and these elements, that when these elements were arranged in order of increasing atomic weight, that the properties of this element and that of the compounds that they form, at a certain stage, it will begin to repeat. And what he now did, at that point in time that the properties begin to repeat, he will now bring that element that begins to repeat to that element where it begins to have similar properties with. So with that, he was able to take elements that have similar chemical properties and physical properties, both of the element and of the compounds they form, begin to put them into the same vertical column, which are called the groups, which he now called the groups. Arrange them like that, such that in each group you have elements with similar chemical properties, both the elements and the compounds that they form, and like that. So with that, he came out with what he called the periodic law. That when elements are arranged in order, so according to the Mendeleev periodic law, because later we will see the modern periodic law, but the first periodic law, which is known as the modern Mendeleev periodic law, it says that if elements are arranged sequentially, that's in order of increasing atomic weight, one after the other, the atomic weight is increasing, it's ascending, that a periodic repetition, and this periodic repetition is known as periodicity. That's a periodic repetition which is called periodicity of the elements is observed. So that is the Mendeleev's periodic law. Mendeleev periodic law states that if the elements are arranged sequentially in order of increasing atomic weight, a periodic repetition that is of the elements is observed. And he named his table the periodic table because of periodicity of the elements. After establishing this law, which was proven, and what he did, because science have to account for future, not before it can become a law, not it will work for this moment, it will not work later. As other people, their own observation will not work for maybe for some atomic, for some element that have maybe heavy atomic weight, or do not take account of physical property. His own took care of, took account of both physical and chemical property. And again, even as he arranged these elements in order of increasing atomic weight, elements that were not even discovered, he was able to leave a space for them, put what they are likely, put what the atomic weight will be. Because if it's increasing order of atomic weight, for instance, if you have an element with atomic number 101, it means the next one should be 102. He was able to leave that on his table. And he was able as well, with the idea of how he observed the properties, the trend in properties of the elements, to predict what that undiscovered element, what the physical and property will be. He did it by, when observing closely at this element, that each element, when you look at it, its physical and chemical properties is an average of those of the elements beside it. So when you take the two elements beside it and you look at their property and put it together, it gives the property, both physical and chemical, of that particular property. So with that, even undiscovered element, he was able to predict their physical and chemical properties, such that as these elements were subsequently discovered, it fitted perfectly as they were tested and all that, yes, that is prediction. The physical property was exactly what he predicted based on observation, because science is based on observation, because this is what all those other scientists were looking for. Something that is scientific, so that when you try it anywhere in the world, you get the same result. So when other elements were discovered by other scientists and determining their properties, both physical and chemical properties, fitted exactly to that one predicted by Mendeleev, both atomic weight, the physical property, and the chemical property. So that one was accepted because it is scientific. So with that, he is known as the father of the periodic table. Though it's not as if all credit is given to him like that, because he built on the study of other scientists, but what he did was he only tried to make it better, make it more scientific, so that anywhere in the world, if it's observed, it's the same trend. Even if any element is discovered today, it will fit him perfectly. And long after, centuries after he had died, many elements that were discovered subsequently were able to be fitted into the gaps he had left in his periodic table. They fitted in perfectly to make us have the periodic table we have now. Because when you look at Mendeleev periodic table, you just see the few elements. When you see the elements left, then we compare with the modern periodic table, you see the number of elements that have been discovered, and all of them perfectly could be fitted in with the predicted physical properties, chemical property, and atomic weight that Mendeleev, through his observation, had proposed. So with that, that is that about this unit 1, talking about beginning of classification of the elements and the periodic law, as well as periodicity and the periodic table. I would stop sharing now and give us a mute. Hello.
Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you, and I hope you heard me. You were hearing me, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for this class.
Okay, you're
So
welcome.
I want to ask. You made a statement before, just before you round up. You said Each element properties are an average of both elements beside it. Is that correct, ma?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I want to get to.
Okay. So any other question?
Able to access the course material. I don't really know why. The course material. This particular
Hello,
thing.
you say?
I said I've not been able to access the course material. The course material for this course.
You've not been able to access it.
Yes.
If you go online, you will get the course material.
Yeah, I
Go
go
to the
online,
go
but
to the
I
NOUN
don't.
website. You will see course material. All the course materials are uploaded online. chm 101, Introductory in Organic Chemistry. You will see the course material.
Yes, the only thing I'm able to see is a PDF file that is 2 pages that has links. Okay, it has links to external sources. That's like Agora and other sources like that. But I wasn't able to get the material itself.
Now, where did you search for this course material? Where?
Pardon?
Where did you search for this course material? Is it on this
I
e-learn platform?
Sorry, all through the lectures.
I just
Hello?
joined. I just started.
You say?
I just
Hello?
gain access. I just gain access over the weekend. I gain access to my dashboard. That is my portal over the weekend. So still trying to find my way around.
Okay, what you do,
Yeah.
go to the NOUN website, NOUN courseware.
Okay.
Go to NOUN courseware. There you will see all the course material. Then you check for chm 101. We have NOUN courseware,
Okay. Yeah.
where all the course, you find all the course materials. You might see it
Okay.
faculty by faculty, department by department. Then you will now see chm 101, the full course material.
I have a question now. Please, you said, I said, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead and ask.
Okay, I actually read a book
You say?
about the first one, the first time, but I was yeah, Anton Lavoie, yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you very well. Can you raise your voice, please?
You said
I guess his line is breaking.
If you're not talking,
Please,
mute
if you
your
are not
mic.
just you cannot just talk for questioning or to ask questions, please can you just put your video, please, so we can hear the others, please.
atomic
So you said something. What were you asking? Please ask your question. Hello? Hello?
Good evening, ma.
Yes, good evening.
Hello, ma. Ma,
I can hear
please,
you.
is there any way I can get the recording of this just concluded class? Because
Yes,
I was not hearing anything. Maybe it's my network.
okay. In fact, as a matter of fact, this class is being recorded. So at the end of the
Okay.
class, I will paste it on the course page of this course.
Okay.
So you can
All
go back
right.
and listen to it. In addition, as well, you know about the instructional video. This course has an instructional video. You can listen to it as well. But at the end of
How do I
this,
access the instructional video?
you say,
How do I access the instructional video?
when you go to the e-learn platform,
Okay.
if you go to the e-learn platform, click on this course, chm 101. So when it opens, you will see every information, all the announcements are put there. Then you now see instructional videos, topic by topic. There are 23 videos here on each
I did.
Hello, good
topic.
evening.
Okay.
I did that. I did that.
On the top,
But
Hello.
you say?
I did that before, but what I see is just the number. That's the number of the video, but there's no video there. It's just
Hello.
Did you double click it?
yes, I did. I did.
Hello.
It's showing next. So when I check, nothing is there. Just the name video. That's all.
All right. Okay. I will inform the Directorate of Learning Management about it. I will inform them so that probably they do something about it so that when you click on it, you will be able to access the video. But as
Hello,
well, this one is being recorded. So at the end of the class, maybe by tomorrow or so, I will paste it so that maybe those who had bad network, who couldn't hear well, or who joined late, they will equally listen. Now it will soon be 6 o'clock. I want to ask of something. You know, we didn't start this class on time. I'll give you time to ask questions more. Okay, I can see. Kindly drop your WhatsApp number. If you go to the course page of this course, you will see my number, and that number is my WhatsApp number. Everything you need,
Yes,
even my email.
I
Even
saw
my
it, ma.
email. Yeah, my email. So just
I
go.
see.
Don't of you don't visit the course page. That's the
I
problem.
saw it and I've
Visit
even
it.
copied it already.
So you will see my number there. You will see my email, so that if there's any issue, we can always discuss and all that. So another thing I want to say is that we didn't start this course on time. This is the third week, so we missed 2 weeks. And this course is very voluminous, and we only just have 1 hour. I don't know how we'll be able to finish, because left for me, I would like that we finish, do revision, and then go through some past questions with you and all that. So what I want to request for, if it's left for you, anytime that is convenient for you this week, we can fix a class to make up for the 2 classes that we have missed.
Sorry, ma. Can we just continue today and then maybe like 7 p.m.?
You say what?
Maybe we should continue and we should end this class by 7.
No, you talk for yourself.
I
How about
agree.
others?
Yeah, see, we have
I
some.
agree.
I don't think we have any other class today.
Because our next class
we
is
don't
by
have
8.
class again, no. So maybe you can just.
So we can continue till 7.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry. I will not be able to continue
It's
till 7
it's
because as I'm talking to you,
unacceptable.
listen to me. As I'm talking to you, I'm teaching you from my office. Are you listening to me? I'm teaching you from my office, and this is 6. I have to close and go.
Hello, ma. Yeah, we can't
but
continue the class. We will look for an alternative and make an arrangement for that class within the week, but not today.
So how are we going to coordinate ourselves and know?
You can come up with a timetable. Whatever decision you take, if you give us an opportunity, we might not come up with a decision. You make a decision first.
We can create a WhatsApp group and communicate from there.
Why don't you form a WhatsApp group among
I
yourselves?
think that's fine.
We can create a WhatsApp group and communicate from there.
That's fine. That's fine, please.
Why don't you form a WhatsApp group among yourselves?
Okay, we'll do that, ma.
The previous class
Who's actually going to be heading that?
for this
Can you
class,
help us
I
with the
was there.
WhatsApp group?
Can we
Post
add
the
you
link,
so that
please, so that we
what's
can
going
join.
Okay. So we will soon finish this class. So I don't know
But
when you want
please,
us to meet again this week.
please don't end the
From
meeting.
next
Let me
week,
form it and send the link.
you say what?
Don't end the
No
meeting so
student
that
should
I can
no student should
create
form any
and send
WhatsApp
it.
group. Please, no student should form any WhatsApp group. Let madam
Ma,
form a WhatsApp group
please,
and
can you
tell us
form the
if
WhatsApp group by yourself?
not accept.
Okay, I will do that.
Yes,
Okay,
because
ma.
of what is happening, nobody should hack anybody. This thing. Let madam form the
Okay,
WhatsApp
no
group and send us
problem.
the link, please.
No problem. I will do that.
But how do we get the link if you form the group?
Oh, hello. Please stop the noise. First, I will do that. Then
Ma,
there,
about you making the group and WhatsApp group link by yourself, like WhatsApp group chat
Hello,
by
ma.
yourself, how
Please,
then can we
I want
get
you to add
like
me
all of
into
us
the
to be added into the group?
yes.
She will
She will
send the
send
link.
an invite
that
link
will be if
now.
you have the
Maybe,
phone number.
maybe
They
the
will
next
post
class.
the link. They will post the
Post
link.
in the chat box next
She
class.
will post the
Huh?
link. You can
Ma,
join through the
can
link.
the link be
And she
posted in
posts the
our
link on the
email?
next in our next class now.
Okay, in our next class, you post the link.
Yeah, she posts it. Yes.
All right.
You can post the link in that
This
email
one with this kind
center.
of
Then we enter from there. But today we can
Not
post
All
everybody
the
can
right.
link
sense
in
that
that
one. No, it's
class
better like this.
tomorrow.
Okay.
She can.
Well, if you can't do it in the next class, we know how to go about. Excuse me.
Ma,
By the
you
time we
post
meet in
the
the next
link.
class, we'll know how to go about this WhatsApp group of a thing.
They
Now listen to
Ma,
me.
can't you create it now and put it on the chat?
So, ma, this
after we
WhatsApp
have
group,
class
this WhatsApp
tomorrow.
group, are we going to do it generally,
In
or
our
is
next
according to, because this
by
one
the
that
time we meet
some people
again,
are saying so study center, is
before
it not
we meet
supposed to be a
again,
Please,
collective
can we
thing?
just
before
allow
we meet
the
again, we will have a
instructor
way.
to
I will
speak?
know how we go about this WhatsApp group of a thing. Then what I'm saying, when do you want us to meet again to have another class?
All right.
Now, from my calendar, I can see that
Ma,
we have a class
Thursday.
tomorrow.
Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
What's that about?
Can we do
4
Thursday
p.m.
7 to 8?
7 to 8.
Thursday
Okay,
7 to
what will
8.
happen if it will be convenient for me because I have a class
Who is this now?
5 to 6. If it will be convenient for me 7 to 8, I will send you email.
What's the
I will send you email. The other thing I want you to know that
Yeah,
for
I
this
think
class, you
that's
see
fine,
that
ma. The
link I'm
email is
passing.
fine. The email is fine.
The,
Email is fine.
It's fine.
yes,
Just
I will
send
send.
email. Just send email at your
Forward
convenient
to
time.
your email on
At
Thursday. If
your
it will be
convenient
convenient,
time.
I will let you
on
know.
Thursday?
Then another thing is
Thank you.
the link and the passcode you use to enter. That is what you will use throughout this semester to enter into this class.
No problem, ma. Thank you very much, ma.
All right.
God bless
So,
you.
All right, thank you very much, ma.
okay, bye.
Thank you.
So you get
Excuse
to
me, ma,
focus
before
on
you
this.
go. Excuse me, ma.
Yes.
Thank you,
You
ma.
said
Thank you,
it's
ma.
7
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Hello.
to 8. Is it PM or AM?
Thank you, ma. See you next
Of
time.
course, it should be PM. PM,
Bye
nothing like
bye. Bye
AM
bye.
here.
Bye bye.
All
PM.
This
right,
one is
ma.
All right.
Yes, so.
So hopefully
Thank
we'll
you,
see
ma.
you on Thursday.
Thank you,
Thank
ma.
you. Bye.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye bye,
Yes,
ma.
ma.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.